Chase.
Well, you said to start the audio recording. I thought we were all starting the audio recording
Andy
at the same
Reid
time.
called you a smart mind that was going to make me better at my job, and I am waiting for that moment because it has not happened in the 2 weeks we've been doing this. Welcome into Scoop City. I'm the Athletic Senior NFL Insider, Dianna Rossini.
And I'm Chase Daniel, played 14 years in the National Football League.
Chase, I dropped the ball this weekend.
Whoa.
Big time.
What happened?
So it was my dad's surprise 70th birthday. And
big birthday.
Big one. Didn't do a lot in terms of the party planning. My siblings took care of it.
You're sort of busy.
Job. Yeah, this podcast takes a lot of time. Football season starts. My family understands. They're cool. But I had one job, which was get my dad from their beach house at the Jersey Shore back to his house where 80 people were waiting to say surprise.
80.
One job. I never put any time into thinking what I was going to do, right? It's pretty important to get the guest of honor to the party, right? So Saturday morning gets here, and my mom's texting me like, call your father. Like, what are you going to say to get him up here? So I'm thinking, all right, he'll help me if it's a work-related emergency. So I'm like, hey, Dad, Aaron Rodgers wants to come on Scoop City. Can you watch the boys? He's like, why does he want to talk to you? I said, I think, he just kind of wants to turn the page, like just kind of attack the season with positive vibes. And I'm excited to talk to him. He's like, this is weird. What's going on? I'm like, can you just watch the kids, please? And my mom wound up telling me that the whole drive up the Garden State Parkway back home, he kept going, he ain't talking to her. He ain't talking to her. He showed up.
So he found you out. He found you out.
Oh my! I ruined the surprise. So bottom line, I ruined my father's surprise.
Like, hey, call your dad. This is for real. Now that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, he'd say, lose my number, please. Again, lose it. Right. So I'm looking forward to seeing Aaron. Actually, next week I'm going to go to the joint practice with the Commanders.
Okay.
So.
Get Jaden Daniels if you're there. I want to know about that guy. That guy's going to be awesome.
I love that you just like throw the magic wand up. Like quarterbacks are just going to come right on Scoop City. Yeah. Look, I'm going to deliver for you. I'm going to get both those guys to pop on even for like 10 minutes for our Scoop City residents. So,
got to.
Speaking of the Commanders, right? Former Commander quarterback Kirk Cousins, the team that drafted him, he joined Scoop City today. We have been very curious about that quarterback room ever since the Falcons drafted Michael Penix Jr. And, Kirk, he's such a professional. He's been doing this a long time. He's been saying all the right things about that decision. But I think we peeled him back a little bit to share what the real feelings were during that night.
He was pretty comfortable with us. I'm not going to lie. I was impressed with him, one, that he was 22 minutes early while I was still in the shower. When we filmed this interview, so I had to hustle up, wet hair and all. Thanks, Kirk, for that. I love that you're on time, and yeah, he seems really at peace about his decision in Atlanta. There's some juicy nuggets in there.
All right, speaking of juicy too, we're gonna check in with Chargers camp, right? So Justin Herbert, Jim Harbaugh, new head coach. The Chargers was your last stop as a professional NFL quarterback, so that franchise really well. And granted, it's different now with Jim Harbaugh at the helm, but I want to dive into this offense on, one, what you think it's going to look like and who you think is going to be the breakout star in terms of a Herbert weapon. So we'll touch on that. And then, did you see Russell Wilson hurt his calf?
Yes, I did, because I love Justin Fields, so I love to see Justin Fields doing it. And I saw the calf was hurt, and he's missed practice for like 4 straight days now.
All right, well, wait till you find out how he did it. I'm going to tell you about that coming up. But first, let's get to it. What I'm hearing around the league. Well, it was a good weekend to be a quarterback in the NFL, right? We saw Tua and the Dolphins agreeing to that 4-year, $212 million deal, $167 million guaranteed. Then a few hours later, Jordan Love got that deal done, 4 years, $220 million with a $75 million signing bonus, $155 million in new guarantees. So congratulations to them. Congratulations to both the Packers and the Dolphins getting that done, knowing that, their starting quarterbacks were holding in there. We knew it was all going to get done. It just, to get it done this early in camp is it's just such a win for everybody. And these guys get their money. And Jordan Love now becomes the highest paid quarterback in the NFL.
$55 million a year. And by the way, that sign bonus, he's going to make $75 million before December, Diana. Before December, which is insane. Congratulations to him. Dinner's on him next time he comes and trains with me in San Diego. And
even the way they structured that contract is it's a win for the Packers.
Yeah, I agree.
Right? Because of the way it hits their cap. So all this money talk, so to speak, has people talking about, okay, well, what's next, right? And all eyes are on Dak. Jerry Jones said that they gave another offer to Dak's agent over the weekend. Still not the number Dak is looking for. We expect Dak's number to be somewhere in the low 60s, right? We expect him to join.
We expect it, but when you say it out loud, and you're in the know, you're in the know more than anyone I know. That sort of rhymed. But a six in front of it, my goodness. Like, seriously, like, I mean, I remember I was on the Saints, Diana, when Drew Brees became the first quarterback to sign for like $25 million a year. And now we're talking about $60+ million a year.
Okay, but chill out. Forget Dak. Let's talk Brock Purdy, right? Because once Dak resets the market, and let's just say there's a scenario where Brock Purdy crushes this season, they go deep in the playoffs, possibly even the Super Bowl. Do you think he's not going to be asking for top of the market money? Of course he is. He's their biggest bargain right now, which is why they're able to sign up the guys that they've been signing and keep this offense intact. So here's the thing. I feel like there's this perception of Brock Purdy as just kind of, vanilla, right? Just not
I'll take my quarterback as vanilla if he puts up those type of numbers.
I agree, but we don't know that much about him, except for the fact that he showed up to camp with some very big thighs. But recently, Mike Silver, friend of the show from the San Francisco Chronicle, got an interview with Purdy. And this is what Purdy said. He said, with as good of a team that we have, I want to get to the point where we get to the third quarter. There's a couple of drives that are crucial. I'm on top of my stuff. We convert on third downs and we score touchdowns and the lead just gets out of hand. It's having that Tom Brady kind of feeling. He said Tom Brady, by the way. Late in the game, it always felt like Tom was just going to take over and not make it close. I feel like I can get to that. What do you think of that?
Well, I mean, first of all, like, the confidence is sky high there, which I sort of like borderline cocky, but confident in a way that like his teammates love him. So I like it. I just think maybe saying the GOAT's name in his quote is good in reality for yourself. But when other people see it, like I'm going to be honest, that's the first time I heard the quote. I saw the headline and I scrolled right by it once I saw like he mentions Tom Brady because I'm like, come on, like what are we doing? But honestly, I like it because he was Mr. Irrelevant. Everyone counted him out. He was third on the depth chart behind Jimmy Garoppolo and Trey Lance, and all of a sudden he leads them to the NFC Championship game, and then this past year to the Super Bowl. So like the dude has that like killer mentality. Like I love to see it, but when he said that, I was a little taken back by it. But yeah, I would say like based on all the film study and all the social media I've been doing this past year and YouTube and stuff, like the perception versus reality on Brock Purdy is really difficult to understand because on one hand, you have all the film nerds like myself that have played the game that actually really know the ins and outs just because we played a long time of what quarterback play should look like. Okay. And then you have, on the other hand, Twitter nerds, which we love my Twitter nerds, but internet trolls of sort that are saying it's just Brock Purdy, the system. And they're looking at his stats or looking at his yards per attempt, which is really high for a Shanahan offense. And I just said, dude, if you go and actually study the film and watch some of these throws that Brock Purdy makes, some of these layered throws, Diana, layered means over the linebackers in front of the safeties. So that second level throws, the touch and the accuracy he has on it. Yes, people are like, he's a system quarterback. And I say, absolutely, he's a system quarterback because he's running the system of Kyle Shanahan's better than any quarterback I have ever seen run the system in my years studying film and my years being a Shanahan junkie. And so when you see that and you see how jacked he's gotten, you see where these contracts are going, like, I understand why it's probably in the 60s, and he's going to ask for that because, quite honestly, if he keeps taking his team to the NFC Championship or to the Super Bowl, maybe wins a Super Bowl this year, because I think the roster, pure roster of San Fran, they're the best pure roster right now in the National Football League. I do. You think 100%. 100%, I do. But
so bottom line, for people listening that are, just talking Niners football, and this Brock Purdy conversation comes up, is it Brock Purdy or the system? What's the smart answer?
Both. And I would say to that, Brock Purdy is the system, because Kyle Shanahan's had a ton of really good, accurate quarterbacks. I think Brock Purdy can be great. I think his ceiling is top 5 in the National Football League. Now, yes, it makes it easy when you have Christian McCaffrey, when you have Brandon Ayuk, when you have Deebo Samuel, when you have George Kittle, you have that defense. Trent Williams is holding out, probably going to, hopefully that gets taken care of. Yes, it's excellent. They've built the pieces around him, but you still got to have the trigger man. That's what people don't understand. There's been plenty of system quarterbacks. These system quarterbacks people talk of have not taken their teams to NFC championships and Super Bowls.
Well, Brock Purdy is the system is a T-shirt I know I want to start wearing after the Scoop City shirt that I'm currently in the process of getting out to people. So make sure you check out our merch. But I think that's a great answer, and it's a good way to look at it as well, because I think the reason why so many people are perhaps, let's just say, doubting Brock Purdy, it's not so much his fault.
They are doubting. They
it's
are
the success
doubting.
of Kyle Shanahan. It's almost like Kyle's his worst enemy, in a sense of he's so brilliant. And we talked to Kirk Cousins.
He still needs to win the big game. He still needs to win the big game.
What makes Kyle Shanahan so great? So, looking at it through that lens is truly helpful. And you mentioned Trent Williams, obviously 11-time All-Pro left tackle. They're going to figure this out. He wants more guaranteed money.
Are good.
He's holding out. It will get worked out.
Good.
From the conversations that I've been having with both sides, it's headed in a good direction. We'll see how much longer it lasts. And the same thing with Brandon Ayuk. But this is the time of year, training camp, where maybe to us, because we're talking about football every single day, and it feels like it's back, but there's not a lot of pressure to get some of these players locked in because it just still feels far away, right? Yeah. Just having some conversations over the weekend about different deals trying to get done. I was all panicky, like, oh, what are they going to do with Ayuk? Because it's getting done. And it's like, just they'll iron it out. And both sides are trying to figure out how that's going to look.
So you believe it? Brandon Ayuk will be a 49er this season?
I do. I don't.
Do you think it's going to be an extension? Or do you think it's going to be like a Saquon one-year deal and move on?
I think it's all on the table. I think they're all trying to figure out what's going to work for them. But, if...
What?
As
but 1 year,
insider,
he's such a good receiver. He's the number one guy there, Diana. Like, what? Tell me their thinking. And I know this wasn't even part of the rundown, but I'm very interested. What's their thinking on wanting it to be short-term versus long-term? Is it Ayuk that wants it short-term to get back to the market because you're sort of betting on yourself if you get hurt? Or what's the difference there?
It's the guy we just talked about. They got to get Brock Purdy done next year. He's going to cost a lot of money.
There you go.
Right? So they've got to be smart with their finances. And look, that's a sliver of the reasoning, but it's definitely part of it. So we'll see if Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch can work that out. But they're going to want Trent Williams back out on the field, knowing that he's just truly the enforcer of that team. So we will be keeping an eye on that one.
Let's move on to another quarterback who's a buddy of mine and very, very tall guy, Justin Herbert. I'm just watching social media. I'm keeping in touch. Me and him were actually texting the other day before practice. What's the feeling like in Chargers camp? They're in that new multi-million-dollar facility, the Bolt. They got a pizza oven that looks like a football helmet. I'm like, I need to go up there and see it. We need to go to Chargers camp and see it, because when I was in Costa Mesa at the office building, it was awful. We didn't have cold tubs weren't working. We didn't have a sauna. We didn't have a steam room. But what's your thought and what are you hearing about like the new coaching staff there with Greg Roman running the offense, obviously Jim Harbaugh, and how are they handling Justin Herbert this year?
Yeah, what a makeover there, huh? From just the superficial stuff, we'll call it, just, the facility, all the things that are important. Because I do think sometimes fans hear those things of like, oh, this owner doesn't want to get this type of stuff, this type of equipment, this type of thing in the training room. But for players,
it matters.
It matters. It matters.
All of it.
And it is a difference maker. And the teams that provide that, the players are really quick to compliment their organization for giving them that type of support. So it starts there. But obviously, this is the Harbaugh show. And he's done a really good job of almost taking a second to learn about the Chargers, to learn about this roster. Because I think there was a thought that Jim was going to come in and just immediately make it his own. And from just the conversations I've had, is the observation about Jim is he talks less than you would expect, meaning he's kind of just observing while he's coaching and leading meetings, doing the things that he normally does. But he's also becoming a student of the Chargers as he's catching up on the NFL. He hasn't been in the league in 9 years, right? So things have changed a little bit. But in regards to Justin Herbert, the arm talent, the leadership, Harbaugh just is marveling at it. I mean, I go back to even just his introductory press conference when he called him the crown jewel, right?
Is that why he's wearing a yellow jersey now? I saw that the other day. I'm like, why in the hell is he wearing a yellow jersey?
It was gold. No, it was gold.
Yeah, I'm like,
because
what are we doing?
The bolt, isn't gold part of the uniform?
He's the only guy on the. I know he hates it. I know Herbert hates it. But I saw a quote like he's like, yeah, Harbaugh's making me, so I got to do it. He's the only person that's wearing it.
Yeah, but I've covered teams where sometimes it's red, right? Like Herbert's issue is the color or the fact that only he's in it. You think?
No, because I saw the backup quarterbacks, Easton Stick. He had a blue jersey on. And all the other so it's blue and white practice jerseys, blue's offense, white's defense, and the only person on the entire field, forget about quarterbacks usually in these red jerseys, he's in a gold jersey. That's it. And it was because that Harbaugh wants everyone to know Justin's that gold standard, Justin's that guy, but also a gold halo, meaning you better not get within 3 yards of this guy or your butt's getting cut, because he had multiple finger injuries last year too. But I just thought it was pretty funny.
Yeah, let's rewind the tape and go back to you saying, so how's it going with Justin Herbert and the Chargers and his new head coach? Here. It's the gold standard. That's how they view him. There's your answer, right? They're literally dressing him in gold.
Yeah,
that tells you how they feel about him, that he is the most important person on that field, no doubt. So, look, we're seeing Justin and his coach. They're pulling sleds together, which we're to talk about that and how you have such an issue with it. But they're also trying to identify some of the weapons here, right? So, their receivers, Josh Palmer, Quentin Johnson, Ladd McConkey, DJ Shark, Darius Davis are the receivers. So who can Herbert rely on against defenses in both man and zone in key situations? Just from what you've been observing.
Yeah, I mean, look, I was with Josh Palmer when I was there, and Josh was drafted there in the 5th round and has made some plays down the stretch. Obviously, they lose two massive weapons in Keenan Allen and Mike Williams. I know for a fact that Justin and Keenan had quite the connection, and he was pretty upset to lose him. But fast forward to this year's draft, round 2, Ladd McConkey out of Georgia, shorter receiver, inside receiver, but runs a 4.38, 4.36 40. So a quick guy. I am very, very bullish right now on Ladd McConkey, because quite honestly, you're looking at all these guys. Josh Palmer has to be the starting X, which is the boundary receiver. Ladd, to me, is a guy that you can move all around. I remember studying his film when he was coming out, and I'm saying, this guy is highly, highly underrated. Chargers didn't think so. They picked him up in the 2nd round. Fast guy. I wouldn't be surprised, Diana, knowing that Greg Roman offense is if Ladd McConkey has 100 catches this year, which people in fantasy, like they love this. I'm just telling you, he's taking Keenan Allen's role in Justin Herbert's mind, his safety valve. And he's already out there. You saw him like correcting and like making a body catch in camp the other day. I tweeted it out. Like everything that I've heard on the ground there has been great. And look, I know Jim Harbaugh was given a lot of love to second-year receiver Quentin Johnston out of TCU. He's 4th right now, is what I'm hearing on the depth chart. So he might be giving him a lot of love. So in my opinion, it's got to be Josh Palmer, Ladd McConkey, and DJ Shark. Darius Davis is the jet sweep guy they can go on. It's just an interesting situation to me in general. I could go on and on. We won't because it's a lot of details. But just this receiver competition because, yeah, they have 2 bruisers that came over from the Ravens running the football. But when you get back to Justin Herbert, the quarterback, some people, and I'm not going to, you know who you are. And I'm going to call, you know what? MJD, Maurice Jones-Drew. We had a bet on NFL Network. We were covering the draft when they drafted Ladd McConkey. MJD straight up bet me a lot of money that Justin Herbert would not throw for 4,000 yards. And at first glance, I was like, what are you talking about? Like they have Keenan Allen, they have Mike Williams, they just drafted Ladd McConkey. Fast forward to now, Keenan Allen, Mike Williams gone. So I'm a little worried about that bet. And Greg Roman, you go back to his days in San Francisco, and with Lamar Jackson, very run-first heavy type scheme. So it'll be interesting to watch that whole situation play out. But I'm very bullish on Ladd McConkey.
How different you think the Chargers are going to be coming out of the gate? Because Jim is known for improving his teams quickly, right? They're physical fast. It doesn't take long for him to implement what he wants. Are you expecting him to sort of have that same success we've seen him have pretty much his entire career with every team he's coached?
Well, they invested enough in him that he better, because everywhere he's been, like you said, in San Fran to Michigan, he always wins, and he wins right away. It's not like there's some build-up. So he brought the old guys in that he used to be with, including Greg Roman. It's going to come down to how well that defense plays. And I think just in general, the owners, the Spanos of the Chargers, Dean specifically, they've really, and John Spanos, I actually really like them. They've been nothing but great to me and my family when we were there. But when you look at them and the investment, not only in Harbaugh, but the investment in the Bolt, they are so sick and tired of what people term chargering, like getting really high expectations and just never really making it through. They're sick and tired of that. They're willing to put their money where their mouth is, and that's a change. That's a change for what they've used to do. And so I'm looking forward to seeing how much really say, and I think it's a lot, that Jim Harbaugh has in that organization. Because I think these owners and the GM and everyone was like, Harbaugh, you're the guy. You tell us what to do. We just want to win, please. And I know, I live in San Diego. They're huge Chargers fans in San Diego. They sort of had to take the back seat to the Rams in LA and all the Super Bowl they won.
You don't have to pretend.
It's crazy.
You don't have to theorize or say, oh, this is probably how it went. That I can tell you that's how it went, right? So they had their eyes on Jim for a long time in believing that they need to get Justin to become a winner and put the pieces around him and figure out a way, knowing that the opportunity that they have here and the chances that they have and the talent that they have in Justin, now's the time.
It's a match made in heaven, I think.
I believe so too. So look, there have been changes, as you pointed to. Tom Telesco, the GM, now with the Raiders, he was with the Chargers. He did Justin Herbert's deal. He's actually going to join the show on Friday because, we're talking about all these quarterback deals. He did a big one.
Huge.
I want to know what it's like to be to be in part of that negotiation, how it works, because I think we're all kind of watching this like, what's going on? How does this work? So he'll join Scoop City on Friday, but we're definitely going to be circling back to the Chargers, and I can tell the girls are home from camp and they're excited about it as well. When we come back, Kirk Cousins joins the show. It was almost 3 months ago to the day that we watched the Atlanta Falcons on draft night use their top pick, their 8th overall, not to improve their offensive line, not to get another player on defense, but to go for a quarterback. Michael Penix Jr. The team had signed Kirk Cousins just a few weeks prior during free agency and paid him a boatload of money.
A lot of money.
Were you shocked when they did that?
Yeah, everyone was shocked. I was at NFL Network on draft night, and it was like such a boring first round because there were so many quarterbacks going. And all of a sudden, 8th pick, and it's Michael Penix Jr. We're like, oh, we got our whole show. We just reacted to it. Like talk radio was nuclear the day after, and it's just insane. It's nuts.
Well, I can tell you leading up to the draft, I was getting calls from people involved in draft circles, we'll call them, saying, hey, I know you're writing about this stuff. I know you're talking about it. Keep an eye on Michael Penix Jr. Atlanta wasn't on my radar, though.
Yeah.
I knew he was going to go high. I just wasn't sure it was going to be the Falcons that picked him. So then they go and do it, and they make the pick, and the first person I call is Kirk Cousins' agent and said, how are you feeling about this? And they were mad.
Oh, yeah.
They were not happy.
They didn't hide it either.
All. They didn't. But, and I give them credit for, they should be mad.
Yeah.
They were not, they called Kirk
natural.
when they were on the clock to let him know that this is what they were going to do. This is not something Kirk was prepared for, but we have learned Kirk has operated in a space where he's not always fully prepared for what's about to happen. And moving is one of the biggest things families have to do. You've talked about it on the show. Kirk has 2 little boys, 7 and 5 years old, and uprooting them, moving them from Minnesota to Atlanta was quite the change and also a difficult conversation he had to have with his family. Here's Kirk Cousins.
You got the kids in flag football at all? Because I got a 7-year-old boy who's just now starting that.
They need to be in it. They need to be in it. I think we signed them up for one, but the games are at like 1 o'clock on Sunday or something. So then we had to find a different league. So we're in the process of figuring that out. But, I mean, they're going to absolutely love flag football.
I'm so glad that we're talking about your boys, because that was the first thing I thought when I saw the transition for your family going from Minnesota to Atlanta is when you were going through that process of making a decision of where you're going to play, how were you informing the boys in your house?
Well, it's a great question. I think it was made clear to them as we were going that we don't know where Dad's going to be playing next. It could be Minnesota. It could be a new team. They're just young enough where I think moving is not a big stress on them, but we're at that age where another move would be. I think they're excited for the new challenge, but we did have to say goodbye to neighbors and friends and our, teachers at the school. So there were some changes, but if nothing else, it'll build some grit in them, and I think they've settled in well in Atlanta.
How's it been being back in Atlanta with obviously Julie's from that area? And I got to say, man, everyone watched quarterback, and I know you personally, and your fashion style is your fashion style. But I saw you show up to camp in the Atlanta Hawks jersey with the cutoffs, showing the guns. Was that sort of her doing, or did you pull that string yourself?
Well, she likes to, because she sees on social media that people arrive at camp in different outfits, and so she said, you should do something, and I obviously was like, well, that's not necessarily my vibe, but okay. And I love Mitchell and Ness. I love their jerseys. That's like a thing for me. I just like to collect jerseys that I'll probably rarely ever wear. And I went into my closet saying, I don't have a ton of options to spice it up. I said, I do have a Steve Smith, Michigan State grad like me.
Let's go.
Atlanta Hawks jersey throwback from when I was growing up watching them. That was the jersey they wore. So I thought that could work well. So we wore it. We had fun with it. I love that people in Atlanta, it was well received. But, the story behind that is really Steve's a Michigan State guy, so I had to pay homage to him. I grew up in the 90s, and that was kind of my memories of the Atlanta Hawks, those jerseys. And then I just love jerseys. So, I really don't discriminate. I'll just collect anything that I think is cool.
That's awesome.
Kirk, during free agency, you were the biggest story. It was where Kirk Cousins is going to land and everything else that appeared. It just, everyone wanted to know what you were going to do. It appeared that you loved Minnesota. Minnesota certainly loved you, just from us all observing it, us all having conversations with people there. Were there any other teams during that free agency period outside Atlanta that you heard later that had shown some interest in you?
I think it was similar to 2018 when I went through free agency where, there's, interest, but you feel like when it starts to become who's serious, it's probably a little narrower field. And I did feel like I had a great thing going with Minnesota. So it was going to take a really special opportunity not to continue with Minnesota. And that's really what Atlanta provided when I looked at the roster, when I looked at, just kind of what we would have here on the field, certainly what we'd have here off the field. It felt like a great opportunity for us, and certainly a big change, but feel good about where we landed.
Was it difficult to leave Minnesota, especially with your relationship with Kevin O'Connell? Obviously, he was your quarterback coach way back when. Take us into that decision because, from the outsider perspective, knowing and going through free agency like I have plenty of times because I've been on a ton of different teams, it can be a little bit interesting, but did they make a last minute push? When did you sort of know in your heart that it might be over, that you were moving on?
They were pretty consistent on what they were willing to do. They didn't play games, which through the whole process, my agent made it very clear that Minnesota's been great. They've been honest. They've been upfront. They didn't play games. It was difficult to start over, having done it in Washington to Minnesota already. It's never easy to learn a new system, learn all new teammates, especially when what you're leaving has been positive. So Kevin as a head coach was difficult to leave. Justin Jefferson's difficult to leave. Jordan Addison, T.J. Hawkinson. There were a lot of positives, but ultimately I just felt like, it was going to be, it had been, and it was going to be basically 1 year. And I felt, maybe I do play in Minnesota for another 5 or 6 years, but it's going to be on 1 year contracts. That's how they want, that's the path they've chosen that they want to walk. So I thought, okay, I don't really want to do that. If there's a better, I'll do it if it's my only option. And it ended up not being my only option. So when an opportunity,
Was there any conversation with the Vikings and yourself about them possibly drafting a quarterback, and that's why they wanted to do these 1 years? Because to me, you're a franchise player, bro. It makes no sense whatsoever to do 1 year deals.
Yeah, I don't think they were ready to go there yet in March. I think the reality is just that they wanted to give themselves that flexibility. And I remember Kevin's words, which I'm not going to hold him to them, were, hey, if we sign you back, I would think it's very unlikely that we would draft somebody. It was something to that effect. But I also know in the league things change. So even if he says that, it's not like I'm going to, hold him to that. But his approach was, I just don't see us doing that if you're back. If you're not back, then we have to. But and then obviously, you have those discussions of, okay, then change the structure of the contract.
No doubt. That's what I'm saying.
And that didn't happen. So then like I said, you take what you can. I deal in reality. And if reality is 1 year offers, then you do 1 year offers. If you get a better option, then you get a better option. So, it is what it is. But the bottom line is Minnesota was great through the process. They were honest. It was a great place to play. It was difficult to leave. And it took a special opportunity in Atlanta to have me leave.
Kirk, we talk about on the show a lot. I say a lot. We're 2 weeks in, but either way, we do talk a lot. Just
Feels
about
like a long time.
Yeah, it does. It does feel like 7 years. The idea of showing you the love and telling you the love, right? There's a difference in business, right? People can say a lot of things, but if the actions don't back it up, it doesn't mean anything. So while you cherish your time in Minnesota and you obviously have so much respect for them, they love you, you love them. In the end, it just wasn't the right fit for both parties at this point. And now you have a fresh start in Atlanta, right? So then we get to the draft and, I was in touch with people with the Falcons organization that night and some people close to you. And there just seemed to be a surprise in this decision for them to go quarterback. What was that like for you as soon as you heard that they were going to probably go in the direction of picking a quarterback?
It reminded me of 2012 when I was drafted because I was a fourth-round pick. I was a nobody. I was pick 102. So I was on the third day of the draft long after people have been gathered around their TVs watching it. And yet when the draft was over, one of the main storylines of the 2012 draft was that Washington took a quarterback after taking a quarterback. So it was interesting to be, that as a fourth round pick to kind of show up at rookie minicamp, and the narrative was kind of why are you here? Or how do you feel about being here? And so it was a similar dynamic now where it was, again, drafting a quarterback in a way that surprised people. But similar to the conversation we were just talking about, you know that anything can happen. Things change quickly in this league. And if I've learned anything in 12 years, it's that, there's not much entitlement. You got to earn your way, and you never know what could come next. And just go out and play the best you can, and believe that if you play really well at the quarterback position, there should always be a team or a market for you to be able to keep playing.
What did Julie say to you when that happened that night? Was she like, "Are you kidding?"
Yeah, something like that. She was certainly surprised, but I think it's, again, just kind of been a part of my story. When I signed with Michigan State, Nick Foles, we offered him shortly thereafter.
Oh, wow. I did not know that.
Oh, that's
Yep,
interesting. You
so
love complicated
I remember I
quarterback
signed my
rooms.
scholarship. So Michigan State, there were like 5 or 6 quarterbacks they offered ahead of me, and they told me, again, they were upfront and honest on my visit. They said, we aren't going to offer you yet. We've offered to 5 other quarterbacks. If we somehow don't get them all, we would seriously consider you, but you're kind of this backup option. Well, as we got to Christmas and after Christmas and signing days getting closer, those 5 quarterbacks all decided to go elsewhere. And so Michigan State offered me, and I, the very next day, committed. And then a few weeks later, after signing day, when you've signed your scholarship, and back then you couldn't get out without a penalty, you couldn't transfer, the head coach called me and said, we're going to offer another quarterback, Nick Foles. And so from day one, you pretty much realize, because I Googled Nick Foles, and he played in the Texas State Championship at the biggest division. He had broken Drew Brees' records at the high school in Austin. And I thought, oh, no, I'm in trouble. I'm just putting this together. I'll never play at Michigan State. And so obviously, as it worked out, not only did I get to play at Michigan State, but Nick Foles also went on to become a Super Bowl MVP. So I've learned that these things have a way of working themselves out where if you can play, you'll always have an opportunity somewhere. And if the other guy can play, he'll always have an opportunity somewhere. There just seems to be a demand for quarterbacks. And the key isn't so much what's around you as it is to focus on what you can control, play well, and that'll lead to good things.
Look, doing some research on you, specifically in the Michigan State days, you got speared in the back and pummeled while running the scout team at Michigan State. You just brought it up. And your quote was saying, the way I'm wired is, if you want to do that, I'm going to destroy you. I'm going to make your defense look bad. I'm going to throw it as deep as I can, as many times as I can. In other words, sort of like going scorched earth. Did that play into it a little bit with the Penix draft night? Like, are you feeling like you have to go scorched earth on people this year and prove to them that you are the guy?
Well, I hope we have a big year. I'll put it that way. I don't know that I would, if we have a big year, I don't know that I would say it's for any specific reason, but hopefully we light it up. I do remember being a freshman on the scout team at Michigan State, and the quarterback was live. And I remember telling that to my pro teammates, other quarterbacks who are used to wearing red jerseys, and they said, wait a minute, you were live on your scout team in college? I said, yeah. And I'll never forget, the quarterback said to me, that's barbaric. They were bringing. I remember one time it was a corner blitz, and there's no chance that a freshman running back has a chance to pick up a corner blitz from a senior corner that they're disguising, they're practicing. We don't watch tape, we don't prepare for it. That corner blitz is not getting picked up. And sure enough, I was just dropping back, and he just helmet to the back speared me. And it certainly built grit. It certainly built toughness. I think our head coach would watch like 2 of those happen, and then he would say, all right, rest of practice, quarterback is protected. But what would happen would be our defense would give up like 35 or 40 points, and we'd lose a close game. And inevitably the next Tuesday it was quarterback's live again. So I was always just praying on the weekends, please stop people, please win. Because if we can win a low-scoring game, I'll be protected the next week.
No doubt. That's hilarious.
Chase, I covered Kirk Cousins in 2012 when Robert Griffin III was there, when they were with the then Redskins. And I was always so inspired, even as a young reporter, watching Kirk handle what I think was a complicated locker room in general. There was a lot of drama, obviously, just that came with Washington, but also just that competition and playing behind, a player of his caliber at the time who was a superstar his rookie year. What did you learn from your time being in Washington, being around Robert, when you were in a little bit of a complicated scenario that you're using now at your age as the starter in Atlanta?
Well, I think I learned it's a marathon, not a sprint. And you have to just take it one day at a time and believe that the accumulation of knowledge and skill development is a powerful thing. And if you can just keep getting better every single day behind the scenes, the invisible days, if you can handle your business then, it will eventually come to the surface and make a difference in the long game. And so I just have kind of learned a lot about what it means to try to play for the long game, to win the long game, and that many times when you're playing for the long game, you may have to lose a few short games, if you will, to get there. So that was a lesson for me, but also just a reminder, the lasting memory would be all the great people I was around. I think it was an incredible blessing to Chase knows this. When you're around good coaches, you always have a chance. And so Mike Shanahan, Kyle Shanahan, Matt LaFleur, Sean McVay, Mike McDaniel, to be around those people all in one quarterback room, I honestly think that may have been one of the biggest reasons I'm still talking to you and still playing football, is that from day one, I was in a position where I had a chance to be successful because of good coaches, a good system who knew what they were doing. And it kind of set the foundation for the entire rest of my football journey, where as they left and new coaches would inevitably come in, or as I go to Minnesota, I was able to say, hey, this is what I did with Kyle Shanahan. So I know what that looks like. So what do you want to do? And I could always kind of use really good football minds as my foundation. And so I was very blessed to have started with them.
I was going to have you do this thing where you just had to use one word to describe all these coaches. I'm so glad you just like naturally brought it up.
There you go.
But like
Perfect
one
segue.
word, like I say Mike Shanahan, you say what? One word.
Man, okay. You say Mike Shanahan. I say leader.
I say Kyle Shanahan, you say
Smart.
Sean McVay.
Similar word, I would say sharp.
Kevin O'Connell.
Oh, I see what you did there.
Kevin O'Connell, I always say like football mind. Like he just has a football mind. I know that's two words. I apologize.
Canceled. Jay Gruden.
Jay. He's a great evaluator, I would say.
Two words.
No, evaluator. He said evaluator.
Okay, evaluator. There you go.
I always respected his opinion, including of me. I just always thought he knew what he was talking about.
Raheem Morris.
Raheem Morris. Positive is the first word that comes to mind. But what I noticed the other day that he did that I loved was I watched a documentary on Jimmy Johnson where they talked about how Jimmy believed in what's called the Pygmalion effect, where you treat a man as he ought to be and he'll become that.
It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. Treat a person as he is and he will remain as he is. Treat a person as if he were what he could be and should be, and he will become what he could be and should be.
And so Jimmy in the 90s would kind of talk people up with the expectation psychologically that over time they will be who I'm kind of speaking into existence that they'll be, and whether they were there yet or not. And I heard Raheem, do some of that at the team meeting the other day where, it was something about how we were going to handle the off day and how we're all pros and we're all going to, handle it well and make the right choices because that's who we are. And I thought, maybe we are, maybe we aren't. But I feel like the way he's treating us, the way he's talking to us, we're going to make the right choices, And so I don't know, I just thought I would use the word positive, but it's this ability to kind of speak belief into people in an authentic way that enables them to kind of have their best self come to the surface. So
I had to ask about Zach Robinson. I grew up with Zach. Zach's 37 years old. I think you're 35, 2 years older. First year OC. Obviously that McVay Shanahan treat. Are there some similarities with what you've had before? Because Raheem brought him over from the Rams. He was the hot name in the news cycle. Dianna was reporting all about him. What have you seen so far in his first year as being able to be the guy calling plays?
He's certainly bringing some elements of the Rams that were familiar to me being in Minnesota. It also has been interesting to see, as you know, Chase, in one season how much an offense can evolve.
Yeah.
And I think back to what Kevin did in 2 seasons in Minnesota and some of the ideas he came up with that the Rams were not privy to, that he thought of over 2 years and introduced to me in Minnesota. And then Zach, likewise, with Matthew Stafford and Sean, with some of the things that they started doing with their offense, that as the 2 years passed, I felt like the offenses started to kind of do this and go their own directions based on their personnel and what came to their mind. So it was interesting now to kind of reconverge and have us meet, and I say, okay, let's talk about what we both have been doing the same, and then let's also talk about what we've both been doing differently and kind of be able to bring that together with some suggestions on both sides. So there's been a lot of that, but no, Zach's a great football mind, and you can tell coaches who have great suggestions and really always are thinking of the next wrinkle, and then there's the coaches who are just going to kind of copy what they've seen done and have a hard time innovating. They really just imitate. And I feel like Zach's more of an innovator where he can now take it to the next level and have it become the 2024 Falcons offense and evolve, as opposed to just copying what the Rams have done and never being able to innovate but only imitate. So you want to be around innovators, and I think we have a good one in Zach.
I know this is a long journey for you, but just so far, wrapping this up, what have you learned about the Atlanta Falcons? What are they?
Well, I think we're a work in progress. I took a few guys down to go see John Gruden this spring, and just to kind of have him challenge us and kind of show us what we could be, but also what it's going to take to get there. And one of the things he drove home that I thought he hit the nail on the head is, there's perception and there's reality. And perception is the Atlanta Falcons have a bunch of talent. The Atlanta Falcons are going to, do this, this, and this. And his point was, that's perception. You got to go play 17 games and prove it. And so to me, I'm excited. I do think we have good pieces, but until it's reality, I don't really feel any assuredness. I just know we've got to go make it reality. And that's kind of my approach in meetings and practice and walkthroughs is let's have a sense of urgency that we go make it reality, and that it doesn't just, live in that world of perception.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. All right, Kirk. Well, thanks so much for hanging out with us. We hope you enjoyed talking to our resident quarterback on the show here. I appreciate all the time. I feel like we've been in this thing together, right? Because we both started at the same time. It's been a long journey, a lot of growth, a lot of experiences. Good luck this season. Stay healthy. We hope you feel great, and hopefully we'll see you soon.
Yeah, thanks for
you guys keep doing your thing. I hope to keep doing mine, and hopefully we can have a few more rounds in the years to come.
Let's do it. All right, thanks to Kirk Cousins. Chase, some of these interviews are so hard because we only have a short amount of time because they have to get to meetings and practice. And we always wind up cutting one or two questions. Yeah. And it keeps me up at night because I want to know the answers, right?
No doubt.
Is there anything you wanted to know that we didn't get to coming off, Kirk?
Yeah, I mean, I wish we would have dove deeper on his John Gruden story. Like, first of all, what he said about Jay Gruden was very polarizing a little bit because I just didn't know he viewed him in that way. And then to get to John Gruden, and then I wish I would have asked him who was training with him and what was the whole situation.
Who'd he go with?
Yeah, like and why, all that stuff.
Yeah, but you and I have discussed it that John Gruden has been helping some quarterbacks in the offseason because they're comfortable. They feel like they can get coached up without any issues or problems. They can be vulnerable with him. And obviously, John Gruden has that connection with Jay Gruden, who Kirk Cousins is very comfortable with in that offense. So it makes sense. What did you think of how he described all the different coaches with, Mike Shanahan being a leader and Kyle being smart and Sean being sharp, Kevin O'Connell, a football mind, right? You know, all very specific to their brains and what they bring to the game.
Well, and the fact is he was with all those guys in Washington, which is just sort of blows my mind. So I thought that was excellent. I thought it was very insightful. It wasn't just like one or two words that he just threw out there. You could tell he really thought about all this through, and especially his answer with Kevin O'Connell. I think he said football mind or something like that. But also the part of the interview that was probably, to me, the most interesting was just being replaceable. Like, how much has Kirk Cousins done for the Minnesota Vikings? And they still said, hey, guess what? We're probably not going to draft somebody if you come back, like all that stuff. And they definitely would have still taken a quarterback. And I think that's why Kirk chose to leave, is because Minnesota only wanted 1-year deals, which makes no sense to me, which makes they definitely were going to take another quarterback in the first round because there was a stable of quarterbacks. But it's just, I don't get that whole situation.
I know he didn't say it, right? So we're not going to put words in his mouth. But watching you two have the conversation about Minnesota's plans of giving him this 1-year deal, and when he says 1-year deal, he means guaranteed money. But when he said that, Kevin O'Connell said, that wouldn't be in our plan to draft a quarterback. And he said, we know how this league is. AKA, I'm not sure if I could trust that.
Lies.
Right? And then to go from a situation like that to a new team that then goes and drafts a quarterback.
Yeah. I mean, that was the reason he left, right? Like, he didn't feel comfortable enough for the Vikings to not like say, okay, you're our guy for multiple years. So he's like, okay, I'm gonna go test free agency. And you asked him, and he didn't tell us all the teams. And I'm upset he didn't tell us all the teams because I was gonna be interested in all that. But when the Falcons sign him and they give him this $100 million guarantee, you don't think in your mind the reason you left Minnesota and then went to Atlanta is the reason now you're in Atlanta and they draft Michael Penix. It makes no sense to me.
There was interest from Denver a little bit. It wasn't significant. It was just light chatter back then. Tampa Bay wasn't sure what
Sean Payton
Baker
and Kirk would not
was
mix, by the way. So that's just, yeah.
Why?
Well, Sean Payton is very, how do you say, rough around the edges, but also very cocky and confident. And we'll tell you how it is. I mean, it didn't work out with Denver and Russell because Sean Payton's just literally told Russ how it is. I don't know if Kirk would like that. So I think down there in Atlanta, they're gonna make some noise.
Here's what I did learn about Kirk is he has spent his entire life getting paid very, very well, being really smart in terms of the business of football, but never truly being the guy.
Yeah.
And so let's see how this can come about now. Because again, in his mind, he's the guy for now. But they went with they went with a young quarterback for a reason because they obviously don't believe at 36 years old, coming off this Achilles injury, that he is the future. But look, that's more the Atlanta Falcons. That's pretty much the Green Bay Packers model, right? We've seen them do this. By the way, I love that he answered the question about Julie because the wives always know. The wives know the real feelings, right? You guys can't share them, but the partners do. So before we dive into what's going on in Pittsburgh in terms of the quarterback situation, because remember, Mike Tomlin never said it wasn't a quarterback competition. He just said that Russell Wilson has the pole position. Well, Russell has some calf injury right now. He's missed 4 consecutive practices. You want to know how he strained his calf?
Please do tell.
Sleds. Conditioning test. Why is a quarterback doing that, Chase?
Well, I have no idea. You tell me. It's like we don't want to be doing them. Like we don't want to be doing sled pulls. Like I saw a video I sent to the group chat that we have going on, like of Jim Harbaugh doing like sled pulls. Like head coaches and quarterbacks do not need to be doing sled pulls because, I mean, Russell's not young by any stretch of imagination. You want to set an example and you want to be out there for your team and you're in the pole position, which I hate. By the way,
I know you hate that
we've already
term.
Talked about it. I don't like it. He's
Why?
a starter
Because
for
you don't
now.
like motorsports or horse racing?
Like, pole is race. Like this isn't like look.
How would you like Tomlin to say it?
He's the starter.
He's the veteran. He'll take first team reps.
He's the starter. He's a starter right now. If you're taking 1 rep, you're the starter. I digress. I think it's idiotic.
I can tell you that the quarterback competition is real.
See, it's real. And with Justin, that's the thing about Russell. He's missed 4 practice days. Going to probably be a 5th. And everything I'm hearing on the ground there at Steelers camp is Justin Fields is doing excellent and has really impressed the coaches. Like, you shouldn't be able to lose a job by injury, but it's a quarterback competition. I've been trying to tell everyone, Diana, like, just don't count Justin Fields out to start. Maybe not right away, but I'm telling you, they have something special in him, and they know it too.
Yeah, well, the Steelers will be in pads starting on Tuesday. So the real stuff really begins, and we'll see if Russell will be able to get back in there, knowing that he is dealing with a little bit of an injury. But Justin's certainly taking full advantage. So they're pushing sleds. You're obviously against it. What's the weirdest, strangest conditioning test a team ever made you do?
Probably 2017, Sean Payton CrossFit style games. I was like, I had left, so I started. People didn't know I started my career in New Orleans. Was there for 4 years.
I'm just laughing thinking about CrossFit. Like, were you in like a full like aerobics gear doing the whole thing?
He had like he wanted to bring like these Reebok shoes in that are CrossFit Reeboks just for like. I'm telling you, like the first year they ever did it, I think it was 2016 or 2015. I was in KC or Philly at the time, but Jimmy Graham, who was a stud, he hurt his back very badly. If you guys remember that year, and had to start the camp, like he was put on PUP and missed like all of camp, ended up having a great year still. But like CrossFit, like I'm talking like.
Wait, did he get hurt doing CrossFit?
Yes, the conditioning test. He hurt his back. Your star
so
tight end.
Explain to people Sean Payton's obsessive personality when he finds an item. Like the example I can give is there was this ice cream, Jenny's ice cream, that he tried once. And he loved it so much, he sent all media members for Christmas a cooler filled of Jenny's ice cream. And that's all he would talk about is how good this ice cream is. And that was just like a very dumb, small little example. But when he is into something, he is all in.
Well, I remember Breeze telling the story about Sean when he first got there, because they got there obviously same time in 2006. Man, that was a long time ago. And those first years of him being there, he got really into golf. Sean did, and I just remember like Drew telling the story. Like Sean would like right after training camp, like go hit balls and then come back, and then like so they'd meet, and then he'd go hit balls again at night and come back. So all these little things, it's like he's got this one track mind. It's so hard to explain to people because is not only obsessive about it, but he's just like wants everyone to know this is the only thing on earth that matters.
Yes. I've had many conversations over my years as a reporter sounding him, like just ignoring him because I just don't want to hear about the latest lamp that he thinks is really good. Oh, you know what he was really into once? Do you know what a cooling jet is? The bed jet?
Yeah. Oh, I actually love that.
You gotta get this bed jet.
Do.
You gotta. By the way, I got the bed jet.
Okay,
you know
good.
what? I think he sent those to the media too. Either
no
way.
Those are like $1,000 each.
No, he sent them out. I think he had his assistant Kevin at the time, who's amazing.
Yeah, I love Kevin.
I think Kevin heard him on the phone with me because he would always throw it on speaker because I'd be asking something about from when I was at ESPN about some sit down I was trying to score for Sunday, and I think Kevin was nice enough to send me one. And you know what? I never used it. I'm sorry.
Oh, gosh, you need to put it on.
I just
it's
wasn't
excellent.
that into it.
It's excellent.
But here's the thing. I can't criticize him because I am similar. I get obsessed with stuff too. Like right now, I go to Orange Theory. I don't miss it. I go.
You seem like an Orange Theory girl.
What does that mean?
I don't know. You just seem like one. Like wants to
Because I'm
work out in Orange
competitive
Theory.
and I'm in shape and I'm aggressive.
Exactly. Orange Theory girl. You just said it. You asked me why. You know why.
Oh, I have to win. It's in that class. It's so bad. I want them to keep score.
You get like
and
points,
announce
right?
it. Yeah, but I want them to announce it. It's up on a screen.
Like splat points or what?
Correct.
Like
You're working out to earn these.
Yeah, my mother-in-law
splat
does
points.
it, and father-in-law. They love splat points. I'm like, what the heck is splat?
Yeah,
points?
I don't know how I feel about the fact that your in-laws do it, but I can tell you, as somebody coming off having 2 kids in 2 years, it got me back in shape, and it helps with that like competitive edge. The trainer the other day called me champ. I had a great day after that. I was like, I'm a champ.
Oh my
so sad. What about you? Anything obsessive?
I got into this photography phase a little bit, if you would call it a phase. I remember, man, before Hillary and I had kids, maybe in 2015 or 2014, I just was like, I woke up one day and I set my mind on, I want to take really cool pictures. And if you ask anyone, like with my iPhone, like I'm really good at like, lighting and everything like that, framing stuff up.
Good detailed eye. You're
good detailed eye. And so when my wife's with the girls, it's like, oh, Chase, take it because he's got a good, all that stuff. But I remember I just said something in passing, like just kept talking about it. And this was maybe in October. And I wake up Christmas morning and my wife had spent probably $1,500 on a camera bag, like a really nice DSLR or whatever it's called camera, couple different lenses, online classes.
Ooh,
and
you're all in.
I was all in. I was like, this is amazing. Fast forward to now, I haven't taken one class. I've maybe using the camera twice, and my wife still lets me have it. So it was a short phase, but it was fun.
Yeah, it's like, remember when you had those dreams of being some famous photographer?
Yeah.
You know what, though? You're obsessed with that. I'm obsessed with Orange Theory. Now we're obsessed with podcasting, right?
Podcasting.
I feel like we
it.
think about this all the time. Well, guys, we hope that you are obsessed with Scoop City. We appreciate all the support. Spread the word. Thanks again for listening. We'll be back on Friday. Tom Telesco, the Raiders GM, is going to be joining the show. We got a bunch of questions. And by the way, if you have any questions for Telesco. Make sure you message us. You
Yeah.
can send us a DM or even comment on our YouTube channel. Don't forget, if you're listening to us, you can also watch us and subscribe to our Scoop City YouTube channel. And also make sure you check out the Scoop City newsletter. You can just subscribe. It's free.
Bye, guys. Tag me next time.
See you next time. Thanks for tuning into Scoop City. If you want to hear more, make sure you like and subscribe. We drop our new episodes every Tuesday and Friday.